Welcome to my 2020 final NFL mock draft with trades. I'm going to be talking to you about what my predictions are for the 2020 NFL draft. So let's get straight into it. Number one, I don't think there's going to be much debate here with the Bengals going up and getting Joe Burrow. He's the best quarterback in the draft. There might have been a conversation if Tua didn't get injured, but Burrow had perhaps the most dominant season from a football player in college in a very long time. He has great football IQ. He can make every throw on the field. He's accurate at all levels, able to fit that ball in a tight pockets, and he's exactly what the Bengals need at number one. On to number two, I think Chase Young is the evident pick for the Redskins. There has been some rumors that the Redskins might trade out of the second spot, but Chase Young is the best prospect in the draft. He's athletic. He's elite. He's powerful. He's able to get to the pass rusher. He was constantly double teamed at Ohio State, and he was still so effective. So the Redskins are getting a great young defensive end to bolster that defensive line in Washington. On to number three. I didn't project a trade here, but I think the Lions will go up and get Jeffrey Okudah from Ohio State, the corner. Okudah, he's just a confident football player. He's the best cover corner in the draft, and it's by a long shot too. He's great size as well as speed for an NFL corner. And with the loss of Darius Slay, trading him to the Eagles, I think Okudah is a great plug straight back into the lineup to fill Darius Slay's void. On to number four, I'm giving Isaiah Simmons to the New York Giants. I wanted to give an offensive tackle to the Giants here because we really know the need that they have at the offensive tackle position. But I thought that Isaiah Simmons is just a prospect that the Giants cannot pass up. He can line up all over the defensive side of the football. At linebacker, he can play as a slot corner too, even as an edge rusher, and definitely as a safety too. He has a elite athleticism, and he can match up and guard almost any player that the offense throws at him. He's quick, he's agile, he's fast, he's athletic. He's the perfect defensive prospect that the Giants are looking to plug into their defense and be a defensive game changer. On to number five. I know that there's definitely been some rumors regarding the Dolphins perhaps trading up, or even perhaps getting Justin Herbert, but I think they go up and get Tua Tagovailoa. He can do it all. If he hadn't gotten injured, he might have been the number one pick instead of Joe Burrow, just because he's been more consistent for a longer period of time. He can throw the ball downfield. He can use his legs to get out of the pocket. He can make all the throws that he needs to. And he's great. He's just a great quarterback. He's a great leader. And I think the Dolphins are really looking for a player, especially a quarterback, that can really lead them into the future. Tunga Vailoa reminds me of a left-handed Drew Brees. He's a great football player, and I think the Dolphins would be very lucky to have him at 5. On to number 6, I think Justin Herbert will be the pick for the Chargers. I think they'll be happy to just sit back on their horses and allow the quarterback to fall to them. At 6'6", he's physical, athletic. He's a really good height for an NFL quarterback. He probably has the best arm in the draft, constantly making big throws downfield. And he's kind of has that Josh Allen mentality where he's also athletic enough to get outside of the pocket and make plays with his legs. Only problem with him is he was very inconsistent as a starter. If you look at his accuracy, he had accuracy problems in the short and intermediate ranges, and he was inconsistent as a quarterback. So the one knock on Herbert would be that inconsistency, and that slight knock on that ability to make plays all the time. But the potential is definitely there, and I don't think Tyrod Taylor is the long-term future for the Chargers. On to number 7, I think Derrick Brown is going to the Panthers. I think the Panthers are in a really good spot because they're going to get a good defensive player. It just depends who falls to him. Derrick Brown's probably the third best prospect in the draft after Chase Young and Joe Burrow. But being a interior defensive lineman, his stock drops just because that position is just not as it's not as valuable as other positions, especially in the NFL draft. But he can play anywhere along the defensive line. He's super powerful, super athletic. He collapses the pocket in a hurry. And at Auburn, he always needed a double team, just like Chase Young. He could be a steal of the draft. But that's the way the draft plays out. Needs come sometimes before talent. And you definitely see that with the Chargers pick. Justin Herbert, normally in a normal draft, probably doesn't have a talent to go in the top 10. He definitely had flashes of talent, but Derrick Brown at number 7 is almost a home run pick for the Panthers. Look to them to get a second round corner to replace James Bradbury. But I don't think they go with a corner here. The only guy here would be C.J. Henderson. I just love the Derrick Brown move, especially as they lost both of their interior defensive linemen in free agency, and also they were completely woeful on their defensive front last year. They allowed other teams to run all over them. So Derrick Brown's a perfect fit with the Panthers at 7. On to number 8. I'm gonna go Tristan Wirfs for the Arizona Cardinals. Excuse me. You could really put any of the top 4 tackles here. No one really knows who's above who. I think Becton will fall a little bit just because of the flagged drug test at the combine. But you could put Andrew Thomas or Jedrick Wills here, and I don't think Cardinals fans would disagree with that. But Tristan Wirfs is super athletic, especially for his size. He can play both right and left tackle. And he can just bully D linemen. The one knock on him is that sometimes he plays a little bit off balance. Sometimes he struggles a little bit against edge rushers that are especially speed rushers. But he's a super solid offensive tackle. And some teams even might want to put him at a guard position. So I think he'd be a really good pick to put on the opposite side of the O-line as DJ Humphries for the Cardinals to protect Kyler Murray and open up that offense to allow time in the pocket to find their new acquisition in DeAndre Hopkins. On to number 9, I'm going to go and give Javon Kinlaw to the Jacksonville Jaguars. For me, it was between Kinlaw and Henderson, but Henderson, I feel like, yes, he definitely fills a need at the cornerback position, especially with the loss of Jalen Ramsey in the trade last year to LA, as well as the trade to send AJ Boye away. So Kinlaw is not a corner, but he is a defensive lineman who fills a need there on the defensive line. He's an elite pass rusher, despite his size. Out of South Carolina, he's super powerful, super athletic, has great strength. And he's a great defensive line prospect that the Jags will definitely need to revamp their defensive line, especially after losing Calais Campbell to the Ravens. On to number 10, I am projecting the Atlanta Falcons to go up and get C.J. Henderson. I think they're in love with this guy, I got to be honest. Another team that you should look out to see C.J. Henderson go to, especially in a trade-up scenario, would be the Dallas Cowboys, who have the 17th pick in the draft. In this mock draft, I project the Atlanta Falcons trading with Cleveland to get their guy. C.J. Henderson has great size and speed that NFL teams look for in their top corners. He doesn't panic. He's good recovery speed. He's the clear number 2 corner in this draft, and he had a great combine to help him along that way. So I think C.J. Henderson to the Falcons here at number 10. It might be a little bit of a trade up. They'd have to give up a considerable amount of resources and draft capital to move up those 6 spots. But I think for them, it's definitely worth it. There's been a lot of talk that they're going to be one of the more aggressive teams. So look out for the Falcons moving up to go get their corner, especially after losing Desmond Trufant. So Henderson to the Falcons at 10. On to number 11, I gave Jedrick Wills to the Jets. You could also have slotted in Andrew Thomas here, but I think Wills might be a little bit of a better fit just because he can play offensive tackle and guard too if he needs to, and that Jets offensive line is woeful. So being able to fit him anywhere is really good. He's a super dominant run blocker, and he's super athletic for his size. Um, in over 900 plays and pressures, he only gave up one sack. So he's very solid. And he plays with a chip on his shoulder, so I think he'd be a really good fit for the Jets. You could also see them perhaps get a wide receiver here, but I think they really need an offensive tackle to allow Sam Darnold some time in the pocket, especially in this draft. There's a very deep wide receiver class, so expect the wide receivers to fall into round two, and maybe a guy like Laviska Shenault, especially coming off injury, he could be a player that the Jets target in round two. On to 12th pick with the Raiders. I think CeeDee Lamb is the perfect selection for them. They need a wide receiver. It's definitely evident that they need a guy opposite of Tyra Williams, and why not give them the next DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah, that's what I said. The next DeAndre Hopkins. He's one of the stronger wide receivers in the draft class. He makes acrobatic plays look very easy. He's able to go up and get the football. He's explosive. He breaks tackles. Makes big gains. He just reminds me of that do-it-all wide receiver you see in DeAndre Hopkins. So CeeDee Lamb is a quarterback's best friend. He'll help out Derek Carr or Marcus Mariota in that Oakland, now Las Vegas, passing game. On to 13, I'm projecting a trade with the Miami Dolphins to go up and get Andrew Thomas, who I believe is the most NFL-ready offensive tackle in this draft. Andrew Thomas, for me, he can play both left and right tackle. He's a 4-year starter, and he showed improvement each season. He's flexible and athletic, and that would allow him to play left tackle in the NFL. I think for me with Andrew Thomas, the big thing is just his NFL readiness, and I think the Dolphins. There's been some talk of them trading up to go get their offensive tackle of the future. To go get one of those top four offensive tackles, if it's Thomas, Wills, Wirfs, or Becton. But I think Thomas kind of falls to 13 here. So I think also the 49ers are a team who originally had the pick, who are a team that you might see trade down a bit. So especially that now that they have 2 first-round picks after doing the trade with the Colts for DeForest Buckner. So Thomas to the Dolphins here at 13. I love the move. You go get your franchise quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, and now you get a guy to protect him in Andrew Thomas. On to 14. I'm going to give Mekhi Becton to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It just came out today that Rob Gronkowski is going to the Buccaneers. So with him, with Brady, it's Super Bowl mode now. They got to go out there and win a Super Bowl. That's the pressure on them. And Becton is a guy that would allow their offensive line to be stronger. They've had some weaknesses there, and that just allows Brady time in the pocket. You know that Bruce Arians loves throwing the ball down the field, and Brady just needs time in the pocket to do that, to let those plays develop. And with Becton, a 6'7", I believe, 364-pound behemoth of a left tackle. He plays like he weighs a lot less. He moves like he's a lot less. He only has 17% body fat. Like, this guy is a muscular machine. He bullies and bulldozes defensive linemen. If you look at his tape at Louisville, he literally just pushed guys out of the way. So I think maybe one knock on him, he probably needs to improve on his technique and his pass protection. But with a little coaching up, I think Bruce Arians might have his left tackle of the future down there in Tampa Bay. And they're in win-now mode. They need to protect Tom Brady. Look to them go and get a running back in round 2 to add to that run game that hasn't been there since Doug Martin's great years back a few years ago. So Becton to the 14 to help protect Tom Brady and allow Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but Chris Godwin and Mike Evans at the time, the time to develop plays and make things happen for that Tampa Bay offense. On to 15, I'm going to give Jerry Jeudy to the Broncos. Jeudy is by far their best route runner in the class. He's not super quick, but he's fast. And he's able to win on those longer routes. He's almost impossible to bring down in the open field. He can break loose, shake tackles, and after losing Emmanuel Sanders last year, and obviously Demaryius Thomas falling off the earth a few years ago, and him not being there anymore, the Broncos don't really have any great wide receivers besides Cortland Sutton. But imagine Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in that offense, as well as the Melvin Gordon led, and as well as Philip Lindsay running game. That's a scary offense for Drew Lock to operate with. So look for Jeudy at 15 to the Broncos. I think it's the perfect pick for him. I think that's the guy they're targeting, and I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up to get him. On to 16. With the Browns trading back, they definitely need an offensive tackle too. Even after signing Jack Conklin, they kind of need to shore up that offensive line. But they have a high pick in the second round. I think it's at 41, if I'm not mistaken. And with that pick, there's definitely going to be some good offensive tackles still on the board. Maybe like Ezra Cleveland, as well as maybe Austin Jackson falls there. Lucas Niang would be there. Isaiah Wilson. So I think they can go and get their offensive tackle in the second round. Still a quality offensive tackle. As long as they get Xavier McKinney here. McKinney out of Alabama is a terrific safety, probably the best safety in this class. Because of Delpit and his tackling issues. But McKinney, he can play in the box as well as a deep safety, and he's a weapon as a blitzer, and he's a good tackler. So that's the one thing comparing him and Delpit. I like Delpit a little bit more, I think, just because he's a ball hawking kind of safety. He likes to go up and get the ball, but McKinney's the number one safety prospect in this draft, just because he's a solid all-around safety. He's not going to give up plays like Delpit might with missed tackles. So McKinney is the good pick here for the Browns at 16. On to 17, I wanted to give K'Lavon Chaisson to the Cowboys just because they need that sort of guy to really be a solid a defensive end to help with the loss of Robert Quinn. But I needed to give A.J. Terrell to the Cowboys for this reason. With the loss of Byron Jones, they lost, according to PFF, the fourth best coverage corner in the game. So why not give them another great cover corner to replace him? A.J. Terrell is a great cover corner who excels in press man coverage. He ran a 4.42 at the combine, which is pretty quick, and that speed definitely shows on his tape. He's long, he's athletic, he's a good corner. The one knock on him is his performance against LSU. He got absolutely torn up by Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow, but I guess that's understandable as LSU kind of had the best offense that college football's ever seen, or one of the best offenses that college football's ever seen. So, A.J. Terrell to the Cowboys. I really like the pick, especially if they don't go up and trade for C.J. Henderson. I think they want a corner, and I think also that there will be some defensive linemen that fall. There's some good defensive linemen in the second round. AJ Epinesa you could see fall into the second round just because of his woeful combine. But definitely there's Uche out of Michigan, there's Okwara out of Notre Dame, as well as Curtis Weaver out of Boise State that you could see the Cowboys try and get in round 2. On to number 18, Henry Ruggs, the third, to the 49ers in the trade down with the Dolphins. Ruggs ran a 4.27 at the combine. He's quick. He's elite. He kind of reminds me of Tyreek Hill. He's explosive. He's going to be the fastest person on the field, basically all times. And imagine him and Deebo Samuel in that 49ers offense with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing to them. He can score from anywhere on the field. He's explosive. He's dynamic. He can make all the plays he needs to. And he'd be a weapon for that 49ers offense. On to number 19, Christian Fulton to the Raiders. After shoring up their wide receiver issues, I think the Raiders can go out and get a corner that is really going to press man, and he's one of the best corners in this draft. He ran a 4.46, which is pretty fast, but there are questions about his deeper speed, and he probably needs to improve on his strength. But overall, he's a solid corner for LSU. And he'd be a really good corner for the Raiders, especially after failing to sign Eli Apple. The Raiders really are in desperate need of corner, and I think he'd be a really good fit at number 19. On to 20, Grant Delpit to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, I I felt like I needed to give them a corner here, just because they lost Bouye and Ramsey. Ramsey before the season ended, and Bouye a few weeks ago. But when a guy like Grant Telpett is there, who's a ball hawking, playmaking safety, he can play as a free safety, a strong safety. He can play in the slot. He can even stretch play as a corner. He loves getting the ball. He's great ball skills. He has a nose for the ball, and he's natural playmaking abilities. The one knocking him, as I said earlier, was that suffered with missed tackles. But he can clean that up. He'd be a great safety for the Jags to shore up that secondary. And look for the Jags to maybe even get a corner in the second round, or a little bit later in the draft. I know this isn't the greatest corner draft, but perhaps Trayvon Diggs might fall to the second round. I know there are a few teams that think he's a second or third round talent, and he'd be a good fit for them. So look out for Trayvon Diggs maybe in the second round for the Jags, or maybe even later. But Grant Delpit's a great pick here at 20 for the Jags. On to 21. Justin Jefferson and the Eagles are a marriage made in heaven. I know there's been some talk that Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray would be a better fit for the Eagles here at 21, but you cannot ignore the problems with wide receiver that the Eagles have had. If the Eagles do not go out and sign go and draft a wide receiver in the first round, Eagles fans will be screaming and yelling. They'll be losing their minds. So Justin Jefferson's the pick here for me. You saw what he did against AJ Terrell, and with Joe Burrow as his quarterback. He's a huge catch radius. He can make all the catches that he needs to. He's reliable. He's consistent as a route runner. And he's just a dynamic receiver. He's explosive. He can make plays. And that's what you want in your wide receiver. And he'd be a great asset for Carson Wentz to help open up that Eagles offense and allow the Eagles to go out and win the NFC East. On to 22, Jeff Gladney to the Vikings. I could have given them a wide receiver here, but I think they can go for the wide receiver with their second first round pick. But using this pick, I think Gladney would be a really good corner prospect that they could put in there for the Vikings defense. He plays much bigger than his 5'10", 190 pounds. That would be a little bit undersized for a corner, but he's tenacious, he's aggressive, he's physical, and he's a willing tackler. He likes to go out and get tackles, especially against the run. So I think he'd be a really good fit in that Vikings secondary. They need a corner. He'd be a good player to fill the shoes of Xavier Rhodes. And I think Gladney would be really great. On to 23, Zach Bond is a match made in heaven with the Patriots. For me, Bond is that sort of undersized linebacker, edge rusher, do-it-all that Bill Belichick loves so much. You know that he lost Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins on his defensive line slash linebackers. So look for Belichick to replace one of those guys with a linebacker. And I know that there's still Kenneth Murray available and there's still Patrick Queen available. But Zach Bond he's just the perfect player to put in that Patriots offense. He is much bigger, faster, and stronger than his size shows. He's good in coverage, and he was a willing pass rusher, and he was hard to stop, basically ever, at Wisconsin. So I think he'd be the perfect player for Bill Belichick and the Patriots at 23. Patrick Queen to 24. He's probably the more polished linebacker in this draft. He diagnoses plays in a hurry. He's able to get after the run and the pass. He's able to blitz. He sniffs out screens. He's all over the football field. And he'd be a really great player on the Saints team that really doesn't have that many holes to fill. On to 25. I'm going to give Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State to the Vikings. They need a wide receiver, especially after losing Stephon Diggs And Ayuk is probably one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. He's a better prospect than N'Keal Harry was coming out of college. He can play every down. He can be a returner. He dominates, especially in 1-to-1. He's so lightning quick. It's lovely to see. He can take almost every throw to the house. Like, this guy's all over the football field. He'd be a great asset alongside Adam Thielen for Kirk Cousins to have. So look for Ayuk to go 25 to the Vikings. 26, Josh Jones to the Dolphins. I kind of wanted to give Cesar Ruiz to the Dolphins. However, I think Josh Jones would be an excellent fit. Imagine the Dolphins coming out of this draft with Tua Tagovailoa, as well as two new starting offensive tackles to help revitalize that offensive line. That would allow Jesse Davis to fit inside, probably at right guard, and allow Josh Jones and Andrew Thomas to flourish. Jones would be excellent. He's super athletic for his size. He's smooth getting to blocks in the run game. And he's solid in pass protection, even against quick and athletic edge rushers, which are definitely abundant in the NFL. So Josh Jones to the Dolphins is really excellent. Even if they don't do any trades, I think Jones could be taken as high as 18 for the Dolphins there. But Jones at 26 would be a really good pick for the Dolphins. And double dipping at the position would be an excellent move for Greer, Flores, and the people in South Beach. On to 27, I think Indianapolis, we know they need a wide receiver. Why don't they trade up with the Seahawks? There have definitely been rumors that the Seahawks are willing to trade out of their 27th selection. And what's a better team to do it than Indianapolis, who sit at 34, obviously need wide receiver help alongside T.Y. Hilton. And T. Higgins is one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft class. He dropped a little bit on draft boards, just because he didn't perform at the combine, or didn't perform well at the combine. So, and at his pro day, he didn't run a good 40. But he's a 50-50 ball maestro. Yeah. Excuse me. He's a great catch radius. He can get the ball wherever it is. Loves to go up and get it. He's a big target, especially in the red zone. For Phillip Rivers, who we know loves to put that ball into play. And T. Higgins would definitely go up and get that football. Help the Colts try and get into the playoffs again. Sneak by the very questionable looking Texans. On to 28. I think Kenneth Murray would be a great pick for the Ravens. Murray is one of the better linebackers in this draft, and he could be better than Zach Bond and Patrick Queen. He's got sideline-to-sideline speed. He's all over the football field, tackling. He's one of the best athletes at his position, and he's explosive, very explosive. I think that'd be great for the Ravens' defense. That definitely needs a little bit of infusion and injection into that linebacker core. On to 29, I don't think K'Lavon Chaisson falls this far. The edge rusher out of LSU. For him, I just don't see him falling this far. I think a team would trade up, but I couldn't really find a team to trade up to. So I think if he falls to the Titans here at 29, that'd be amazing for them. He is able to get to the passer. He's athletic. He plays well against good competition. And his moves to get around the edge is elite. He's definitely up there in the best edge prospects in this draft. However, he was inconsistent at times playing for LSU. But look for him to go higher than 29. If Chaisson's gone at 29, I think the Titans could definitely target AJ Epinesa and Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State, I want to say. 30. To the Green Bay Packers, Denzel Mims would be the pick for me. I originally had Jalen Reagor going here just because he's able to really open up the field would be able to open up that field for that offense. But I love Denzel Mims too. Just he's a little bit raw, but the potential is definitely there. I think they're definitely going to target a wide receiver. They need another guy alongside Devontae Adams, and Mims is a really, really, really great wide receiver. He dominated versus top corners at the Senior Bowl. He can run by anybody. He's good speed. He's very fast, and he's very athletic and very tall, and is able to go up and get those 50-50 balls. So I think he'd be an excellent player for Aaron Rodgers. The one thing on him, he's raw. He had a few drops, and he needs to improve as a route runner. But he'd be a really excellent wide receiver if he fell to the Packers here at 30. He might not even go in the first round. He could go in the second round. But I think it'd be between him and Rager for the Packers here at 30. 31, Jalen Johnson, one of my favorite corner prospects in this draft from Utah. He's aggressive. He's confident. His above average twitch and length. He's calm, especially with his footwork, and he can make plays. He's a playmaker. And I think alongside Richard Sherman in that 49ers secondary, he could be excellent. So I think if the 49ers are able to come out of the draft with him and Ruggs in the first round, they'd be definitely happy. Also, another option here for them here at 31 would be a guy like Ross Blacklock. We know they traded DeForest Buckner away for that 13th overall pick, and they definitely needed another inside defensive player to replace him. But there's a lot of good inside defensive players out of in that second round range. So you could see them go up and use one of those second round picks that they have to go up and get a defensive lineman. But Ross Blacklock would probably be the best defensive lineman available at this time. But Jalen Johnson, he fills a bigger need for me. So Jalen Johnson, number 31 to the 49ers. Finally, 32, Chiefs. I wanted to give them not Terrell, my bad. I wanted to give them Diggs, the corner out of Alabama. But there are rumors that he is dropping on people's draft boards into the second and third round. So I wanted to give them Noah Igbenogany, the corner out of Auburn. He comes from a track background. He didn't actually think he was going to play corner in college, but he's extremely physical. He's rarely out of position. He's able to make plays. As I said, he didn't think he'd play corner in college, so he's relatively new to the position because he's only played corner the last 2 seasons, and because of that, he can get a little bit handsy at times. But I think with enough coaching, he might not be a plug and play starter day one, but the potential is 100% there with Noah Igbenogany. So that's it for my final 2020 NFL mock draft. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe down below. Comment what are your thoughts on how I drafted for your team, and if you disagree with anything, just say that. But thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, and hopefully see you next time.